All right, so we're going to start Chapter 8, Section 1. Today we're going to talk about law of sines, and we will be using our calculator today. And remember, it must be in degrees to answer these questions. So first, we're going to be, in the past, when you did the trigonometry, whether we did it in this chapter and we did solving the right triangles, or even in your geometry course, whenever we were using the trigonometry, we were always using right triangles. Now, with law of sines and law of cosines, we'll be able to solve any type of triangle. It does not need to be a right triangle. So if you recall back to your geometry days, and we learned about different shortcuts for proving triangles congruent. If you remember, there was like side, 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 angle, side, angle, angle, side. That's what these abbreviations are representing. The capital A stands for angle and the capital S stands for side. So what's going to be given to you in these problems when we want to solve the right triangles, or the non-right, So we've already done this, but they were right triangles. Now what we're going to do is solve them when they're not right triangles. So you're either going to be given two angles and then any side. So that'll be angle, angle, side. You might be given, notice the S is in the middle of the two capital A's. So this is going to be two angles and the included side. And then the last case, this SSA, if you remember back to your geometry days, if I reverse the order of these letters, it spells ASS. There was no shortcut to prove two triangles congruent using ASS or SSA. What this is going to be telling you is you're going to be given two sides and an angle opposite. So an angle that's opposite to one of the sides that are given. There's two other scenarios, if you recall back from your geometry days. There's side, 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 and side, angle, side. And this is going to be what we're going to cover in 8.2. This is going to be, we'll be using law of cosines for these two. So when you're given all three sides, it'll be law of cosines, or if you're given side, angle, side, where the angle is included, this will be what we're going to learn in section 8.2. Now, what we're going to be doing here is notice the formula here. And again, the naming of the triangle is going to be important. The capital letters in this equation or formula here represent the angles. The lowercase letters are going to be the side across from that angle. So when you're given the information, a lot of times you're not given a picture. You're going to need to draw the picture yourself and fill in the letters. So notice I've got angle A here, and then across from angle A, that's where I label the lowercase letter A. And then angle B would be here, and opposite to that would be lowercase b, and then the capital C or angle C across from that will be lowercase c. Now, when we go to solve these triangles, I'm not going to use all three fractions here. I'm going to be setting up proportions. So if you're given, say, side A and angle A, and maybe angle B, and you want to solve for side B, then you would only use these two. If I'm given information about angle C and angle B, then I would use these two. So you're only going to use two of them at a time, and you're going to be creating proportions. So our first example Notice we're given an angle, and a side. So this is going to be the angle, side scenario. So again, notice a picture was not given to us. So I'm going to draw myself a picture. And again, it does not have to be drawn to scale. Just draw yourself a triangle and then just get the numbers put on here. And again, it doesn't matter how you draw it. Actually, I'm just going to draw it because it keeps drawing something I don't. I'm just going to draw by hand. All right. So here's my triangle. And it says, I'm going to label the letters. It doesn't matter where you put them. So A, B, C. It told me angle C was 102. Angle B is 29. And now remember, across from angle B is little b. Across from angle C is little c, and little a is over here. Now, just like before, when we solve the right triangles, we need to find the value of all 6, the 3 angles and the 3 sides, once we're finished. So I don't know angle A. I do know angle B, and that's 29 degrees. Angle C is 102. I don't know lowercase a. I know lowercase b is 28 feet. And then lowercase c, I don't know. Now, when you're given 2 of the angles, to find the missing third one, you can just use your triangle sum. And you should know that the 3 angles of a triangle add up to be 180. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the measure of angle A. And to do that, I'm going to take the 2 angles they initially gave me. I'm going to add them and then subtract that sum from 180. And my last third angle, angle A, is 49 degrees. So when you're given 2 of the angles, to find the third one, just add them and subtract from 180. Now what I need to do is find lowercase a and lowercase c, which are the side lengths. So again, I always try to use my given. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, again, we're using the proportions. So again, we can use side A over sine angle A, lowercase b over angle B, the sine of angle B, and then C. This is what I'm using, but again, I'm only going to take them 2 at a time. So what I can do first is I'm going to use B and C first. So I'm going to be using just this part of the formula. So I'm going to be doing B over sine B equals C over sine C. So I have little b, it's 28. I have angle B, it's 29. I don't have side C, that's going to be my unknown. And then I have angle C, it's 102. All right, so now I'm going to cross multiply. It's a proportion. So I'm going to multiply sine of 29 times C is equal to 28 times the sine of 102. And then what you're going to do is divide both sides by the sine of 29. We're going to round to the hundreds place. So notice this cancels. So now I'm left with C equals 28 times the sine of 102 divided by the sine of 29. And you should be getting rounded to the hundreds place. So this should give you 56.49 feet. So now I've got little c, so 56.49 feet. Now I have to find little a. Now, I know angle A was a calculated number, but I need to use it. And I just needed to make sure that when I did that adding and subtracting from 180, that I did it carefully. So now what I'm going to do to find little a over the sine of angle A, little b over the sine of angle B. So little a, my calculated angle was 49. Little b is 28. Angle B is 29. And now cross multiply. So a times the sine of 29, and then sine of 49 times 28. So sine 29 times a equals the sine of 49 times the sine of 29. Sorry, not another sine. So this should just be 28. So sine of 49 times 28. Divide both sides by the sine of 29. That cancels. And once you do this on your calculator, you are going to get 43.587, so rounded to the hundreds place, 43.59. So now you have solved the triangle, and because you have all 6 pieces of information. So just like we did before, except for it's not a right triangle, and we're using the law of sines. Next one. The next scenario, notice it's 2 angles and a side. Now, once I draw this, I'm going to see what situation I have. So let me go ahead and draw the triangle. This is actually the angle side angle. So, honestly, whenever you have 2 angles that are given, it doesn't really matter if you identify if you have angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle. It's still going to be the same process. It's when you have the side, side angle is where it gets tricky. So this is 98. It was given to me. A was 43. And little c is 22. So this is little a, little b. It's very important that you label your triangle appropriately. So now I need to find my missing angle first. So again, angle A given to me, angle B given to me. Angle C is what I'm solving for. 98 plus 43. Once I add those, I get 141. Subtract that from 180. And you get 39 degrees. Now, we also need to find all 3 sides. So C is 22. What I need to find are sides A and B. And that's where I'm going to use law of sines. So again, I'm always going to use in my proportion the angle and the side that I'm starting out with, that I have both information. Now I can either solve for A or B, it doesn't matter. So I'm definitely going to use sine of C both times. So if I want to find A first, I'm going to do little a. So I'm doing side A over the sine of angle A equals C over sine of C. And then when I go to do B, I'm still using that same ratio, the C information. So these are going to be the 2 that I'm filling in. So for little a, I just found angle A was given to me. So A over the sine of 43 equals C, which is also given to me, over the sine of 39. So again, we're going to cross multiply. So A times the sine of 39, and then the sine of 43 times 22. So sine of 39 times A equals the sine of 43 times 22. Doesn't matter the order you write it down. Remember, multiplication is commutative. So now I just have to divide both sides by the sine of 39. And once I multiply and divide, that's going to give me the measure of side A, 23.841. So just leave it as 84 feet. So that's side A. And now I can find side B. So again, let's fill it in. I don't know side B, but I do know, and there should have been a B. So side B over sine B. So angle B is 98. So the sine of 98 is equal to 22 over the sine of 39. Again, cross products. And we get the sine of 39 times B equals the sine of 98 times 22. Divide both sides by the sine of 39. And little b, after I multiply and divide, 34.618 rounded 62. So now I have all 6 pieces of information, 34.62 feet. And notice in the original picture, you were given angle A, angle B, and then the included side. So that's why it was angle, side, angle. But again, I'm not going to ask you to identify what scenario you have. But as soon as you see that you have 2 sides, and if it's not the included angle, that's what's going to be identified as an ambiguous case. And I'm going to tell you what that means on the next slide. So now, when you have 2 sides and an angle, and it's not the included angle, 3 different situations can occur. You can either form one triangle with those 3 pieces of given. You can also form no triangle at all because the side's going to be too short and it won't close up. Or we could actually form 2 triangles from the given information. So this is only when it's the non-included angle. If it's side, angle, side, then we're going to do law of cosines. So when you're given 2 sides and the non-included angle, we're going to use law of sines to find the first missing angle. And we'll label that as like angle 1. And then from there, we're going to subtract that angle from 180. And then that potentially could be my next angle of my second triangle. Then after you get that angle, we're going to finish solving triangle 1. Now, if you start out and you do that first missing angle and you get error on your calculator, don't think you've done something wrong. That just means that there's no triangle. Okay? However, if you do get an angle, then that's when we have to do the check to see if there is a second triangle. And then once we subtract that new angle from 180, if we get a negative number, then we know that there's nothing left to make a second triangle. And you're going to see what I mean by this. I'm going to go through and do all 3 scenarios. I'm going to do where it creates 1 triangle, no triangles, and then 2 triangles. So let's go ahead and see the first example. So it says to solve the triangle given, and again, it's 2 sides and an angle. So again, it's not going to be the included angle, and you won't know that until you draw it. So let me go ahead and draw myself a triangle and label in what was given. So A, and it doesn't matter where you put the initial angle measures. What is important is that you put the side across from the angle as labeled as the lowercase letter on each one of these. So they gave us side A, it's 22 meters. They gave us side B, it's 12 meters. And they gave us angle A, it's 42 meters. So what you're going to find is when it's the ambiguous case, they're going to be giving you one of the angles across from one of the sides that's given. If it were the included angle, they'd be giving us C. And then that's when we would be doing law of cosines, which comes up in 8.2. So again, this is the side angle scenario. And what we're going to see in this is after I do the check, we're only going to end up with one triangle. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Now, remember, once we're done, I should have the measure of angle A, and I have that because it was given, the measure of angle B, the measure of angle C, and then also A, which they gave me, 22 meters, B, they gave me as well, and then C, I don't know. So let's go ahead and again, take what you already have, first of all, and I'm going to be using this information here, and then I'm going to find my first angle that I have a side from. So I'm going to be doing A over the sine of A, because that's what I have an angle and its side. And then the other piece of given, I'm going to put here. All right, so sine of B. Now I'm going to fill in what I have. So 22 over the sine of 42 is equal to 12 over the sine of B. Now remember, whenever you're looking for an angle measure, we're doing inverse. So remember, you would hit the second key and then the sine. So we're doing the inverse to find an angle measure. But we still have to set up our proportion. It's set up. Now let's cross multiply. So I'm going to do 22 times the sine of B, and then sine of 42 times 12. So sine of B times 22 equals sine of 42 times 12. So what I'm going to do here is divide both sides by 22. And now I have the sine of B is equal to the sine of 42 times 12 divided by 22. Now, when we want to find an angle measure, we're doing inverse here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this number, and I'm going to keep the crazy long number. And then once I do that, I'm going to do second sine and then put that decimal in there. So let me go ahead and multiply sine of 42 times 12 divided by 22, and I get 0.36498033307. Then I'm going to do shift sign, put this decimal in there, and then angle B is going to equal, I get 21 rounded to the hundreds place, 21.41. Now, at this point, you can either choose to finish up this triangle, because we did not get an error, or do the check to see if you're going to have to go back and find a second triangle. So what I can do is I can finish up this one, and angle B is now 21.41. And now to find angle C, I'm going to add those two angles and subtract from 180. So the same thing I just did for the other triangle. So I'm going to add 42 plus 21.41, and I get 63.41. Subtract that from 180 using my triangle sum here. And my angle C is 116.59 degrees. So that's angle C now. Now that I have angle B and angle C, now I have to do one more proportion to find side C. So now what I can do, again, I always like to use the given side and angle. So I'm going to be doing A over the sine of A is equal to C over the sine of C. And I get 22 over the sine of 42. And then I don't know side C. And I'm going to use that newly calculated angle in my proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. And I'm looking for a side, so I'm not doing any kind of inverse here. So I'm just doing the sine of 42 times C is equal to the sine of 116.59 times 22. Divide by the sine of 42. That cancels. And once I do this on my calculator, I get, so 29.40, and these were meters. So now that has just completed the first triangle. Now, when you have this side scenario, potentially there could be a second triangle. And the way that we find out is if there is a second triangle, we're going to take the very first angle we found. We are going to subtract that from 180. And this is going to give me 158.59. Now, if there's a second triangle, this would be my second angle B. However, what I need to do is I need to add this to the original angle that was given to me. So 158.59. As soon as I tried to add it to angle A that was given to me, notice this goes over 180. If it goes past 180, then you know that you can't form another triangle because that's only two of the angles. So this is too big. I cannot form a second triangle. Now, the other way that you can do it is if you don't want to, you could take 180, and then when you subtract that sum, if you get a negative number here, then you know that there's no second triangle. So if this number goes over 180, then you know you stop and your only answer is these 6 numbers. If it was not bigger than 180, then you could form a second triangle and you go back and you do everything all over again. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. 2 more. So example 4. Again, this is also going to be side angle. This one's going to produce 0 triangles. But again, we won't know that until we try to draw it. So again, notice, and again, I'm not going to close it because I don't know. So if I draw, this side is A being 15, and then B is 25. Then if I try to draw an 85-degree angle, it's a little bit more than 90 degrees. Look, it's not going to be able to connect here. But again, you don't have to do this, just do the calculations. So again, I'm going to set up my stuff, angle A, angle B, angle C, 85, little a is 15, little b 25, little c I don't know. So again, I'm going to take this as my first proportion, the letters that have numbers next to them. So what I'm going to be setting up is the sine of A with little a on top of it, little b, sine B. So let's fill in the numbers. 15 over the sine of 85 equals 25 over the sine of B. Soon as you do this first proportion, you're going to get error on your calculator. You stop and you say no triangle. So watch. So multiply this and this. So I'm going to get sine of b times 15 equals the sine of 85 times 25. Divide both sides by 15. So you're going to get this crazy decimal. We're going to do inverse. So sine of 85 times 25 divided by 15. And I get 1.6603244797. Now, remember back in chapter 5, remember that slide with the possible values that sine can take on. Remember, sine has to be a fraction. I can already tell that this is going to give me an error because this number is greater than 1. But do it on your calculator. You do second sine, put that decimal in there, and you should be getting error. Soon as you see this, you stop and say no triangle. So no triangle can be formed with that given. Soon as you see error. But again, if you know the ranges for sine, that should be a clue that it's too big. This one's still the side-side angle. And it's going to be two triangles that are going to form from this one. So again, I'm going to give myself a visual. ABC. I'm given angle A to be 20.5. I'm given side A is 12. Side B is 31. And I don't know lowercase c. So angle A, 20.5. Angle B, I don't know yet. Angle C, I don't know. Little a, 12. Little b, 31. And I still have to find C. So again, I'm going to go ahead and use in my proportion the variables that have the numbers next to them. So what I'm going to be doing first is I'm going to be doing A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. I'm looking for angle B first. So I'm going to fill in. I have 12 over the sine of 20.5 equals 31 over the sine of angle B. I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 12 times the sine of B and 31 times the sine of 20.5. So sine of B times 12 equals the sine of 20.5 times 31. Divide both sides by 12. Going to get a decimal. So sine of 20.5 times 31 divided by 12 gives you, I get 0.9047024016. This is a good number. It's less than 1, and it's greater than -1. So now, inverse, sine -1 with this decimal. And again, leave the whole thing on your calculator. Do not round until the very last step. So second sine or shift sine, whatever button you're using, make sure you do that. And you're going to be getting 64.78. That's your first angle B. So now all of this is for triangle 1. And I'll put a little subscript. Put little ones on all these. So the first angle B is 64.78. Now what we need to do is do another proportion to finish this one up. And then I got to go back and check to see if there's a second triangle. So for angle C and side C, for angle C, I'm just going to add the two angles I have. So I'm going to add 20.5 plus 64 45.78. Add them. I get 85.28. And then now I subtract that from 180. And I get 94.72 is equal to angle C. So this is the first angle C. Now I use that angle C and do a proportion. Again, I'm going to go back to my original A values. So I'm going to do A over the sine of A equals C over the sine of C. So let me fill that in. I get 12 over sine of 20.5 equals C over the sine of 94.72. I'm going to cross multiply. So I end up with sine of 20.5 times C equals the purple, so sine 94.72 times 12. Divide both sides by the sine of 20.5. And side C gives me, so this gives me 34.15, and these are in meters. So now that completed the first triangle. Now go back to where you calculated the very first angle here, and we got to do the check. So this is the check for the second triangle. And again, if you'd rather do the check as soon as you find it, you can. So I'm going to take 180, subtract that first angle I found, and I end up with 115.22. I'm going to take that. Now this is potentially now my angle B for the second triangle. I'm going to take that and add it to the given triangle at the beginning, and that was 20.5. Once I add that, I get 135.72. This number is less than 180. So this tells me there's room to get the third angle. So to get the third angle now, I take 180 and I minus the 135.72, and that's going to give me my second angle C. So 44.28 is going to be angle C of the second triangle. So now for my second triangle, angle A is the same as the given. Angle B is new. It's the 115.22. Angle C, I just calculated it. Little a was given to me. It's still the same for the second triangle as the first. Same thing for B. But side C is going to be different because I have a new angle C for my proportion. So now what I'm going to do is the same given information. So to find the new C, I'm going to be doing A over sine A, C over sine C, and this is going to be 12 over the sine of 20.5 equals little c over the sine of 44.28. So now I'm using this angle C where I did a different angle C in the other one. Cross multiply, sine 20.5 times C equals 12 times. And then once you cross multiply and divide, it gives you the last piece. So I'm just going to divide by the sine of 20.5. So I'm going to do 12 times the sine of 44.78 divided by the sine of 20.5. And I get So this should be 44.28. And once you multiply and divide, side C of the second triangle is going to be 23.92 meters. So now I have found 2 triangles in all 6 pieces of information. So again, remember, when you have the side situation where it's not the included angle, you need to do this check for the second triangle. So once you find the first missing angle that you need to find, then you can do the check, or you could just complete the first triangle, then just remember to go back and check for the second triangle. So again, if after you try to do the proportion for the very first angle, if you get error on your calculator, you should know that you're going to stop and then you're going to go ahead and say that there's no triangle. There will be a part 2 to this video, and I will do more examples, and I will also cover the area.